Good evening and welcome to my podcast, How to Fight CPS and Stop Taking Children. Yes, that's right. The child protection system is what brings us all together. Um, on the Facebook page, I have Fight CPS with Bob Pace. And you found the link, and I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. And I welcome you all, a warm welcome, because what you're going through, I know, must be miserable. I know exactly what you're going through. And it's very hard and very difficult at your time because you're dealing with an entity you may not know about. Now, I do have regular people that come in my room, and they'll be coming in here shortly. And I want to thank all you listeners for today to stop in here. And I, too, with the child protection system, my children were trafficking by the child protection system, and they were alienated, which is against the law. They were stolen. There's no question about that. They weren't in imminent danger, and they were taken from me. So I know the feelings there. Now, to interact with this podcast, there's several ways you can do so. The first way is just by being in the room. Just by being in the room. I'm not going to do phone calls at the moment until I go through how they interact with the room. So just by being a participant is one way. You don't have to say anything. You just listen. And hopefully there's things that are being said by people in the room that will help you out. Now, a second way to participate in this podcast is to text me comments. Now, the comments should be about CPS. We're in here about the child protection system, how to work through it, how to get your children back, how to keep your children, what to do and not to do with the child protection system. Every state will have a different acronym. Like in California, it's the Child Protection Services. In Arizona, it's the Department of Children's Services. In Kentucky, it's the Bureau of Family and Children's Services. And so every state is a little bit different. But when I say CPS, I refer to the Child Protection System. It's a branch of social services that was mandated to protect our children from neglect and abuse and to do family reunification. If they break the family apart, they need to put the family back together because studies have shown that the best parents are the biological parents. So, in all possibility, the biological parents need to take parenting classes, programs, and or maybe that'd be drug rehab or whatever to get better so they can do it. It isn't what the CPS wants, that they want it as a foster care trafficking. Why? Because it's $1 trillion business. They make so much money. The federal government gives the state in turn gives all the counties and all the different states. And it is sad. In my county, Orange County, each child of my family that was stolen, was 3 of them, was $20,000 each. They were taking $60,000 a month for 3 years. That's ridiculous. If you had 100 families with 3 children at $60,000, that'd be $6 million in 1 month. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So when you text your CPS questions, please show your name, the city, the state, or the country. Now, I say country because we in this room have had about 13 countries text in about their issues with CPS and wants to listen and so forth. And we've had countries like Bangladesh, New Delhi, India, the continent of Africa. We've had several countries there. We've had South Africa, the province of one of their provinces that called in. And then we had Mozambique, which is above South Africa, across from Madagascar on the east side of the continent. And then we had near Lake Victoria, we have Rwanda. And what's notable about Rwanda that in the 1994s, which wasn't too long ago, 1 million people were eliminated and 400,000 females were raped. It was horrified. And then we go on the west coast up to Liberia, and that's the north part of Africa. A gentleman named Arthur texts in all the time. He's involved with scouting. Scouting, by the way, is no longer the Boy Scouts. It's now called Scouting because they have girls in it. So he likes to listen, and he, would and texts us some comment stuff. So he interacts. So he's on here a lot for his country. Then we go up to Europe, and we've had England, Scotland, Wales, which is the United Kingdom. We have Denmark and Sweden, which surprised me because I thought they're really good with their children and no problems with domestic violence. Then we go across the pond, and we go to North America, and we get Canada on both the west coast and the east coast of Canada. Then we've had all the 50 states have texted in or called in, and even had Washington, D.C. not too long ago. So I've talked to everybody in every state and now talking to territories. And south of the border, we have had Mexico. And actually, the father called in. He had lost his 2 daughters in Louisiana, and he called from Mexico and wanted to figure out how to get them back or how to see them. Then we've had further south in South America, Guyana, which is above Brazil and east of Venezuela. They have a coastal town called Georgetown. And they too had problems with CPS. Then we go across Pacific to the land down under, and we got Australia. So those are the countries that have several times each of them have texted in with questions or problems with CPS. So I welcome the country. And lastly, be complete with your CPS case. Whether you're calling in or texting in, it's important that you tell me your whole case at once. It's very hard to play ping pong ball because it takes time. I don't mind it, but if I ask you a question, you answer, then I ask, and you answer and ask, it goes back and forth and it moves really slowly. So start off with the makeup of your family. That's really important to know. Are you husband, wife? Are you girlfriend, boyfriend? Are you partners? Are you lovers? How is your family made up of? And are both spouses involved with the children? Or one spouse? Are you a single spouse and take care of the children all by yourself? Also, I need to know the number of children, whether boys or girls, and if it's all the same spouse. Sometimes we have families with 4 children, 4 different spouses. So it would be nice if you tell me that situation. Then you should move on to say, how were what were you accused of? What were your allegations? I mean, lay people and professional will call in. Professional required to by law. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, those kind of individual. Laymen are your relatives, your friends next door, neighbors, whatever. Those are lay people. And they will make a complaint. The problem is the complaints are treated by the child protection system as they're real, and you're guilty. In dependency court, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. Any other court of law, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But with dependency law, which you're in, the dependency law, that is sad because it's an uphill battle to say you're guilty. Also, how did you children get trafficked by CPS? Did they come to your home? Did you give them in? Did you let them in your home? Did you go down to the CPS office and turn your children over? Did you talk to the police? Did you talk to them? There's only 3 ways they can come in the home and take your children. One is you give them permission. And I don't think anybody in the right mind wants to give permission because they'll take your children. 2 is if there's domestic violence going on, yelling and screaming, fighting with weapons, a child being slammed against the wall, the police and the social worker will come in. And lastly is called a court order. This is my rule number 3. Lastly, they will come in and they will serve a warrant. But if you're inside and you don't answer the door and you hide, then that's even better. If you're outside, you're going to have to do a timeout with them and tell them I need to speak to my attorney before we go anything further. That's one way to get rid of them, away from them. Do not tell them anything because they'll use it against you. My wife and I were just talking, and she says our case, we're stupid because we told the foster care parents and the information they used against us. They lied, they deceit. Their goal is to adopt. And because see, when you're in a foster care family, they're given money every month. So the foster care loves that because then they don't have to work. And that's one reason why they want them in foster care. And foster care can be a single family home, or it could be a group home or a shelter. There's many kinds there. Good evening. We have Tori Johnson. And hello there, Tori Johnson. So I have court this upcoming Tuesday. That's next week. And I trying to have the courts to drop CPS allegations. CPS outrageous safety plan. They've heard this sign against me. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Tori Johnson, what city, state, or country are you from? That'd be great. I want to finish with the interacting. So we were talking about the be particular of your case. After you identify if they're abuse or neglect, then you want to tell them how they were taken from your home. And then where you at on your case. Where you're at on a case is the last thing. Now, another way to interact with this podcast is to schedule as our guest. And you would contact our producer. She's our show producer, and her name is Grace. She works really hard behind the scenes, and she will take an email from you, and you just tell her what day and what time you want to be on the show. I have 14 podcasts. I'm on the show 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, for an hour. But tomorrow morning, I'm being recognized by the city, so I'm going to be going to get an award. So I'm on at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. That's tomorrow only, 7 o'clock. And then on Sunday, I'm on at 8 o'clock. Sunday, I'm on at 8 o'clock. So I'm 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday and 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Then my evening shows are 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. So all you have to do is tell Grace, I want to be Bob's Friday morning show, or I want to be Bob's Sunday evening show, or I want to be Bob's Tuesday morning show, etc. And then what you do is you email her. Now her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. It's printed right there on your screen. You should see it there. It's grace@vincentwdavis.com. Okay, that's right, Tori. You're in Utah. Now I remember. I'll be right with you, Tori. Be right with you. Okay. So, being a listener to the show is one way. Sending me text comments another way. Being a guest is the third way. The fourth way is my call in. Call in. And you can call into my office number at 626-698-0990. I'll answer it during my showtime hours. Outside of my showtime hours, I don't answer the phone, and I'll leave you a text message that you need to call during my showtimes on there. So you can call me right now, 626-698-0990. The phone line is open, and this is a good time. I just wanted to go through how they react with this podcast, get that done so I can have least interruptions here. Now, we've had one person this evening is Tori Johnson from Utah, and she has a case next Tuesday, and there's an outrageous safety plan they have heard the sign against me. Can you tell me on the safety plan what is outrageous about it? If you want to call in, that's fine, Tori. If you want to text it, that's fine too. So if you could tell me what the outrageous plan is, that would be great. Meanwhile, I'm going to try to contact. Oh, wow, that's good. All right, welcome. This is Bob Pace, and who am I speaking to?
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Who's this?
Hey, is this Bob Pace's call-in number?
Yes, it is. Who's this?
Hey, my name is Spencer, Bob. I'm watching a live, and I was told that there's a number to call in if you want to talk about a specific CPS case.
Yeah, sure. Where are you from, Spencer?
Yeah, I'm from Nevada County, California.
Nevada County. I never knew there was a Nevada County in California. Is that Northern California, or where's that located?
Northern California, and it's about an hour north of Sacramento.
Wow. Okay. And as I was telling people earlier, can you tell me about your case complete, and that way we don't have to play ping pong ball?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were offered voluntary reunification services because we had dueling restraining orders, and we ended up volunteering to reunification services, and what that ended up entailing was for them to create a petition for a non-detained jurisdiction. And so basically they assigned us public defenders and got us to sign away our rights, and then they subjugated their jurisdiction.
Can you stop there for a second? Why did they have you sign away your rights?
Because I wasn't aware that they were having me sign away my rights to my children and my rights to my own to act outside of their jurisdiction. And what they did was they created a report that they didn't even feel like there was merit behind, but they convinced us that it was a good idea to do it because they made all of these monetary promises.
Now, what is your household? Are you husband, wife? Are you girlfriend, boyfriend? What are you?
Husband, wife, with 3 little babies under 3.
Okay,
that are currently
right.
detained.
And these are the 3 little babies. Now, these 3 little babies, are they all the same parents, or are they different parents?
All the same parents.
Okay, so we have a husband, wife here from California, and it's Nevada County in Northern California, and they've been tricked to sign a safety plan, and it's probably very outrageous because Tori Johnson has the same problem in Utah, who's been texting in this evening. And so
yes, they created a safety plan and this is what allowed them to file a petition to detain the children, was because they created a safety plan that required my wife and I to be separated.
And that's terrible. Was there domestic? What were the allegations? Was it neglect or abuse or both?
The allegations were substantial emotional risk is what it was. Not that there was even abuse, but that there was maybe emotional risk because they said that we violated the restraining orders initially because we met up to talk about reunifying.
Now, why did you guys have a restraining order? Yeah. Why did you guys have a restraining order?
We had restraining orders because we were kind of separating, because my wife was having an affair and we were having some issues, and so we separated, but then we wanted to get back together. So they decided to use. So we didn't even have a criminal record. There was no.
Well, a restraining order is issued when there's domestic violence. Was there domestic violence?
It was it was for domestic violence, but both orders were dropped.
Well, if they're dropped, then why did they take the kids?
Because we submitted to their jurisdiction in Nevada County and gave them jurisdiction over us. And then when my wife, we had a mandated report through a parenting class, and she was just saying how it used to be. She was saying that I was like being controlling and things like that. And yeah, I was a little bit, but that's because we were having, my wife's dad tried to murder me. So I was going through some major PTSD stuff. And so she was telling her parenting class teacher that I was really controlling at one point and all this. And she filed a report that this was recent and that this was new information. And so that forced us to sign a safety plan that we had to be separated. And we made a mistake, and we took the kids to the park together, and our social worker found out, and she served my wife a warrant and detained the children on that basis because we violated the safety plan and saw each other.
Well, the first mistake you made was signing the safety plan. You're not required, by the way, to talk to the child protection system. It's called California. It's called CPS, Child Protection Services, and you're not required to talk to them. And if they did serve you a warrant, then you have to follow what the warrant tells you. Is that how they got your children? Was issuing a warrant?
That's correct. And then now we have been going through a series of hearings, and now I'm trying to challenge jurisdiction, and I'm trying to challenge the qualifications of the prosecutor, and I'm trying to challenge the credibility of the witness, because it was the whole detainment was just based off of a report. There was no corpus delicti. It was just her interpretation. And like I heard you say, those interpretations usually aren't in the best interest of the client. They're usually full of deceit and exaggerated. And so that's what we're going through. She said we had an altercation in front of her when it was actually more of like a moderated argument. And so if it does get to I'm operating pro se right now, and if it does get to the point where we're arguing the facts of the case, I am under the burden of having to prove that it's a moderate argument and wasn't an altercation. So there's a lot of things going on. One thing I may do is verbalize the underlying statute of, the Adoption and Safe Families Act from 1997, which is Section 401, which is the preservation of reasonable parenting, which says that nothing in this act is intended to disrupt the family.
So you're doing some research. You're doing some research. You're doing some research. That's good.
Yes, I am. And I have a hearing in 2 days. And so I'm demanding a point-by-point determination in a trial by jury. I've also learned that you can challenge the law of agency, that under the law of agency, the principal, if you demand that the principal is present during the hearing, that's another thing you can demand.
Now, how are you having a trial by jury in dependency court?
There isn't one, but that's what I'm trying to say is that.
Well, you have to understand. First of all, the criminal charges are separate. The Child Protection Service in California will not bring up criminal charges. Only the district attorney will in the area you live. That's who brings up the criminal charges, and that is handled as a misdemeanor in criminal court. You're in dependency court dealing with dependency law. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a loving father with 6 children, 3 grown up and 3 little ones that were stolen. But I've learned these last 15 years of fighting CPS what you can do and what you can't do. And there is no jury trial in dependency court. They start off tricking you by saying, we want your children. Now, in your case, you had a warrant, so they took your children. Now, you say you're pro se, and you no longer are using a court-appointed attorney. Is your wife using a court-appointed attorney?
She is, yes. We're not
Okay.
on the same page.
But you don't have the
She's
court-appointed.
submitting.
You don't have the court-appointed attorney for yourself, right?
That's correct.
Right, because you can't be pro se. Because when you have a court-appointed attorney, you can't speak in court. You have to use them. The problem with court-appointed attorneys, they're paid very cheaply. They will not fight for your case. They have a caseload of 30 or more people, and you eventually get frustrated, go nowhere with them. You're welcome to use a court-appointed attorney. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm telling you the pitfalls is one, you can't speak in court. Two, they won't fight for you. Three, they're not knowledgeable. And four, their caseload is so heavy they won't have time for you. And so you're at the hands of that. Now, you're pro se, your wife is a court-appointed attorney. How about your 3 children? Are they court-appointed attorneys?
I believe they do have them.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing. They love to trick people and say use court-appointed attorney. If you don't have money, they love to do that. The reason why it's expensive for you to pay for 5 attorneys, which would involve, because you have 3 one for each of the kids, your wife and yourself. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of retainer.
Yes.
And so I know what your feelings are. Now, the problem is the kids' attorneys are pals with the court-appointed attorneys and the judge, and with the social workers' attorneys.
That's correct. Yes.
And so you'll find the court very corrupt in dependency court. And let me see here.
Yeah, so did you end up what was your result, and how long did you have to fight?
It was 3 years. I used my court-appointed attorney till it was wasted, and then I hired Mr. Vincent Davis. I had to sell my home to do so because I needed the money for the retainer.
Yeah.
Now, I've had, let me catch up with people in the room. Some of the people have made comments. And so Tori, who's from Utah, it has a coming up Tuesday next week, and she's trying to have the courts drop the outrageous safety plan. Those safety plans are stupid. Anyone that tells you have to divorce your wife or have to get out there is wrong. And they've heard she said the sign against me. And then a new person, well, not new, has been here before, is Goddess Kratos. And she says hi and correct. And then Heather Coulinard, I don't remember having you before. No, the judge who was actively on my case was a visiting judge and sentenced me criminally in a case I had appealed. She threw it out and gave me options to sign charges to go to jail. Heather, I don't know where you're from, but I never heard of a criminal charges being handled in dependency court. They're handled in criminal court. It's a misdemeanor charge, depending on what it is, and it's done by the district attorney. Goddess Kratos says they do not disclose that they're to migrate, not to represent. No, they won't. Court-appointed attorneys won't say that. You won't even see them until the day of your court. And that's not the way you need to operate. You need someone to come in there. Now, Heather's further said, what did she say here? Okay, Heather says, settle it, but in the end, the judge cornered me in a place I had no choice, being a mother's representative. I need more information, Heather, to help you on that one. Goddess Kratos, even the training manual says the judge and the court are part of their team. Oh, yeah. The dependency court, you got the judge, you got the clerk, you got the bailiff, and then you got the attorneys representing the social workers. There may be 2 social workers and 2 attorneys. You got the children's attorneys, which are court appointed unless you get them, you hire them yourself. Then you got the parents' attorney. And um, Heather says it's $30,000 to retain him. I don't know who you mean him. What attorney are you talking about? And attorneys will have retaining fees depending on the extent of the case and how long the case has been going on. It's not cheap. I had to sell my home. I had to sell my home because I didn't have enough equity in my home, so I had to sell it. And the money I sold it, I used from a retainer. So it all depends. Um, Heather says he's the only attorney in California who fight. No, he's not. He's the best. If you're talking about Vincent W. Davis, he is definitely the best. He's definitely the best. Somehow I've lost a phone number here. Hold on a second.
So I'm still here on the phone with you.
No.
Okay.
I have something on here that is not on my screen side, and I lost the number for. Where is the number here? Okay.
My question for you is what was the turning point in your case where it started to go in your favor?
When I hired a real bona fide attorney, I had to spend a year of my time wasted fighting them and dealing with the corrupt director of the CPS system. In California, is the CPS, and that was in Orange County. And I even had meetings with him to no avail there. So I've lost.
Was it a specific motion that your attorney filed, or was there something specific that they did?
Well, okay, here's what they did. I did not know the things I know now. I have 4 rules. 1 is to hire an attorney. 2 is the paperwork. 3 is not let them in your home. And 4 is to research. And if I'd done all that, I wouldn't have let them in my home because they had nothing against me. For 5 years, there was complaints being filed by family members, my wife's family. I did not know that. If I knew that in the beginning, so there were false allegations. So after a year, it took me 3 years to get my children back. I only got 2 of the 3 back. I lost my daughter because I didn't get on it soon enough. And that's one thing I don't want people making the mistake. My family is worth selling my home. It took me 40 years. If I have to work another 40 years, I'll get a home. And I'm still trying to do that. I have to get a job first. And so I'm missing my red and orange number. Grace, if you can hear me, I'm missing the office number, the 888 to 6582 number. I don't see it on the screen. And is it on I'm looking on my things. I lost a number that I normally have. And I don't know what happened to it. But Grace, if you hear me, I'm missing the number for the office for Vincent Davis so that people can call in.
So, Bob, I'd like to tell you that it sounds like your case is very similar to mine. I had 17 referrals from family members to CPS in California, and
they're all false.
None of them were unsubstantiated.
Yeah, they're all unsubstantiated. See, the problem is when a family members do it, they do it for a reason. They wanted to take our children. They weren't happy when me and my wife got married. We've been married for 32 years, and we're raising these 6 children. Luckily, the 3 older ones are off on their own. They're in their 30s and 40s, and they have children of their own. And but our 3 youngest, and my wife is younger than me, were taken, and there was no intimate danger. See, they had nothing on me until they came to my home. And see, my home at that time, I had brought my parents' belongings into my home of 55 years of belongings they had. And my dad had died, my mom was dying, and they'd asked me to pack up and send the stuff to relatives. And I should have put them in storage, but I had no money for storage. So I thought if I could stack them in the living room, I have a huge house. I did have a huge house. And I had a huge living room. I had a dining room that wasn't anything touched in there. They could eat there. It was a formal dining room with formal china and everything else. I had a kitchen. I had a center counter. I had a breakfast nook for eating. I had a family room. Again, all those areas were unexposed. There was food in the refrigerator, food in the cupboards. And so that wasn't the issue there. And the bedrooms were free of clutter too, because I didn't take the stuff upstairs. It was more work for me. So I was packing and sending things off. And they said, well, you're neglect to your children. Do you know that box can hurt your children? I said, how's that box going to fly upstairs and hurt my children? Or the furniture has got legs going to walk upstairs. That's how absurd they were trying to look. They had I had 5 firemen show up at the house, and they were trying to find something wrong with my smoke alarms, my fire extinguishers. They're all fine. I had central vacuum. There's nothing wrong with my house. Code enforcement was brought over. They found nothing but a loose gate bolts, and the yard needed some trimming. That's all the code enforcement came up with. And I couldn't afford my landscaper, so I had to take care of myself. But a loose nut and bolt could be tightened on the gate, and the yard could be trimmed up. That was no big deal. Then they had the 2 social workers, and those social workers were the ones trying to find something. And then they had the 2 uniformed policemen that weren't finding, I don't know what they were doing except ruin our white furniture. I had rattan and white pillows and stuff, and they stepped on them. They broke some of the furniture. They were looking outside the yard. They were looky-loos. They weren't law enforcement. It's really ridiculous. The police are very corrupt where I live. And then the detective that tricked me and followed him home. If I knew that you need to have a warrant or you have to, have domestic violence happening, they would have probable cause, but they didn't have. And so I didn't know. I gave them permission. And that's one of the ways they can enter your home if you give them permission. I did not know that. I could have said, hey, look, I need to talk to my attorney. We'll get back to you. What is your name and badge number? Or I could have said to the detective, arrest me. If I've committed a crime, arrest me. If there's a traffic violation, write me the ticket. But I should have said, no, I'm not going to go home. I'm not going to go home. I need a warrant. And they didn't have that either. So I didn't know the things are. So it was all happening. I didn't do research on the internet. I should have. I was concentrated on getting getting a job. And at age 65 is when they took the children from me. Age 65. So you can imagine being a 65-year-old senior trying to enjoy life, have to deal with this numbskull itty person. The social worker was only 23 years old. They don't have license in California. They don't go to college to learn social work. And she didn't have the experience. She didn't know what imminent danger was anyway. She doesn't know what family reunification is. All she was interested was her bonuses. So she get her new Gucci purse, her earrings, her accessories, her makeup, her clothing. She talked about all those things all the time. Her BMW car. That's the social worker I was dealing with. And this social worker later on was being cross-examined by my attorney, Vincent Davis. And my wife's sister and husband were trying to adopt a child. We did not want that to happen. But the attorney was Vincent Davis, cross-examined. He said to them, has there been any domestic violence in the home of these 2 individuals? And the social worker said, oh, no, they're beautiful parents, blah, 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 blah. Well, then Vincent Davis pulled out all these documents of all these police reports of domestic violence with them, some heavy domestic violence. And she looked so bad on the face. Her jaw dropped. She was embarrassed in front of the judge, and she lied. She committed perjury. And I could file a lawsuit against that individual. I'm talking about millions of dollars. But like anything else in the law, you have to pay for the retainer. I don't have money to sue somebody that potentially you could get money from. So that social worker said, I'm going to get revenge. And you know what they did? She told my daughter, 12 years of age, you're going to emancipate yourself from your parents and family. That means you're going to divorce your mom, divorce your dad, divorce your brothers, divorce your aunts and uncles and grandparents and cousins. And then you're going to change your name, and then you're going to seal your birth certificate, and then you're going to be adopted into foster care. She followed the directions because you see, when they take children right away, when they shouldn't be taking children, they don't tell what the parents are going through or what's going on. They don't say, hey, the parents are taking parenting classes. The parents are trying to fix the problem. There's no communication. There should be a weekly communication with the children and the parents. They should be able to talk about the case. They keep them so sheltered. They don't enter in court with the parents. They're behind the scenes. It's terrible. I'm never so lost in that court. That court was so bad.
I'm going through it right now. I have 3 babies that are under 3 years old, and because my son isn't speaking because he's going through trauma, his doctor's now trying to say he's autistic, and it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Wow.
Yep.
That is.
It sounds identical to my case. You just get caught off guard, right? Where we're conditioned to assume that we operate in good faith in society, and that society rewards that. Little do we know that we're under the threat of agencies constantly, the police department, the various law enforcement departments, CPS. These are all agencies. These are all executive agencies that don't have a corporate charter, that aren't ratified to the Constitution, that they pay all their employees with promissory notes that violates the Constitution. They use the instrument banks of the UN. And they're a for-profit system. And they pay the abuse and neglect courts. They pay everybody. Like you're saying, they pay the children's attorneys. They pay the public defenders. They pay the attorneys for CPS. They pay the clerks. They pay the bailiff. They pay the court reporter. And it's all one big money-making scheme. And the one thing I discovered in my research is that everything they do is founded on what's called a non-positive law. It's a law that was never enacted. All their parenting standards, all the subjectivity, it's all based on an editorial law that was never enacted by Congress. And what that is it's called a non-positive law. And I learned that a non-positive law may be refuted by proving that there's an underlying statute that has different wording. Okay? So this is really key. Okay, CPS says they have all these standards. They have all these interpretations of the law. The Chevron case that just was overturned by the Supreme Court, the judge's dissension was that agencies are no longer allowed to interpret the law.
Okay, and
that's what agencies do, is they interpret the law, and then they ask the court to make orders and decisions based on their interpretation.
Okay, Spencer, hold on a second. I have a bunch of people. I have to take care of the people that do comments too. I'm doing you and these comments here.
Okay.
But I need to catch up. I don't want you to go anywhere. Okay. I think it was the last one was Heather, who said the judge who's actively on my case was a visiting judge and sentenced me criminally in a case I had appealed. She threw it out and gave me options to sign charges or go to jail. My appellate said, I don't know who your appellate was, Heather, but again, the difference between criminal and CPS dependency court is CPS dependency court does not handle criminal charges. That's done by a district attorney. Because I had one in my case. I was being charged by the district attorney criminal in criminal court. I was also being charged the same thing by the dependency court in dependency court, but it was not criminal. It was neglect. And they were concerned that my parents' belongings would harm the children. That's what they were concerned about. The criminal guy made all kinds of accusations. They do that all the time. And so So I don't know what this visiting judge was doing or what court you're in. Um, Also, Heather, I don't know where you're from. So I can't really relate to what you're saying. I can't look it up. Um, Also, Tori, I have not forgotten you. I'd like to hear more from you, Tori. Tori's from Utah. And then Goddess Kratos says they do not disclose that they're to mitigate, not to represent. That's true. That's true. Heather says, settle it, but at the end, the judge cornered me in a place and I had no choice being my mother's representative. So I'm confused. Were you the daughter of your mother that was being accused, Heather? Also, I don't know where Heather and Goddess Kratos are. Now, Goddess Kratos says, the training manager says the judge and the court are part of the team. Yes, you're right. They'll all get paid. There's collusion there. And Heather says 3,000 retained. I assume that she's talking about Vincent Davis. I don't know. And there's more than one attorney in California that will fight these cases. There's a new person. Well, not new. I think you've been before. Alexei Harvey. Welcome. CPS just found neglect and dependency on me. Well, it's either neglect and abuse. There's no dependency. I don't know what you mean by dependency. And my kids have been in CPS care since last August. How were they taken, Alexei? Did you hand them over? Did they have a court order, a warrant? Or were domestic violence going on and you're fighting? Okay. Heather is in California, so we have a lot of Californians today. Thank you, Heather, for clarifying that. Okay, she was a visiting judge in crime court. What were you in the crime court for? What were you charged in the crime court? That wasn't from CPS. It had to be something criminal from the district attorney there. Alexei Harvey, I still don't know where you're from. They had filed 3 negligence motions on me. Okay, your negligence. Now, again, I haven't had my kids, so you must have 3 kids. That's why it's 3 charges in there. I've been fighting for them ever since my attorney barely talks to me. Is that a paid attorney or a court-appointed attorney, Alexei? And where are you located? Heather's from California. She says, how can I fight for reform the law? Like, how do you fight or share my story to a higher court or correct to be a part of the solution if you can't afford the attorney? How can I advocate? Well, you can appeal this to the state, the ombudsperson, the civil rights coordinator. You air your grievance, make a complaint. You can file it all the way to Washington, D.C. You can talk to your congressman and you can talk to your representative or senator. Of your congressmen or women, you talk to them and you can bring it to their attention. But you have to keep fighting. This isn't an easy matter. It's not going to be over in 6 months or 1 year. My case took 3 years, so be prepared. Be prepared. Now, Heather from California, what if you're getting retaliated from? Yeah, you are being retaliated because they don't like to be told what to do, but they're wrong. And you stick to your guns. Don't talk to social workers. You don't need to talk to them. They need a court order for them to talk to you. The more you say, the more they use against you. So you have to start learning to say yes, no answers to social workers. Don't sign your life away. Do not sign any papers. Safety plans. Don't be cahoots. They're saying threatening measures because they think they got the power. Now, Goddess Kratos, I still don't know where Alexei Harvey or Kratos are from, but Goddess Kratos says, unfortunately, he is correct. Things don't change until you have an attorney. And I'm sorry, that's my rule number 1. You need to get an attorney. I'm still waiting for my federal case to be responded to, and that is for CPS breaking into my empty home without a warrant. Well, I don't know how they broke in unless you open the door. They can't break in the home. If there's domestic violence going on, they will break in your home, but they're not going to break into an empty home. Okay, it's a planned attack. I agree with you, Goddess Kratos. I don't know what city or state you're in, but I'm trying to find that. Not only do they use code enforcement, but they double your bills and then start stalking you and give you flat tires and mess with your car and much more. Yeah, I've heard about that being retaliation. It's not that hard. Alexi Harvey, I don't know where you're from, says, police cornered me, took my kids, arrested me. I asked them, where's your court order? What the reason? They still took my children. I don't see them for a month. CPS are liars. Help. Alexi, um, what were you arrested for? What were you arrested? If the police took your kids and you're arrested, you must have been arrested with something. And CPS is not going to help you. Godness Kratos, welcome to, well, yeah, I don't think we're that far bad. I don't think we're that far bad. So I don't want to talk about that past history of very demon-like people. Godness Crazy says, sorry, didn't mean to blow up on your chat. You can ignore me. I'm not going to ignore you. You're entitled to this room. I want to help all the parents in this room. Hi, Christina Renzo. She is from New Mexico. Godness, Kratos, and Alexi, please tell me where you're from. Dayton, Ohio. Thank you, Alexi Harvey. Thank you. They had no warrant, no fighting. I was asking for help. Well, the CPS is the wrong people to do so. Shannon Parsons. I'm from West Virginia. I'm about to expose a lot of CPS workers, prosecutor attorneys, public defenders, commissioners, ombudsmen, the director, cabinet secretary, and the governor. Sounds like you're from Kentucky. I don't know where you're West Virginia. West Virginia is a very bad state. And welcome, Shannon. Alexi, cops said COVID-19 emergency removal. It was August 23. CPS continues to have court hearings. Coming back. What city and state are you, Alexi? She's from Ohio. Okay. I try to remember all these. Okay, I never signed anything besides releases. I'm from Ohio. And then what I have here. Hey, Bob, Ohio here, Nicole. Welcome, Nicole. You're from Ohio. Tell me more about your case. Christine Renzo from New Mexico. I prepared a defense for somebody in West Virginia about to send to D.C. What county you in? Christina is asking a question from the person from West Virginia to contact her. Yes, the judges are bad. They also are very thing there. Goddess Kratos. I'm in California. The attack happened in Sacramento County, and they did break in some empty home. Let me see here. I've never had this many texts come in so fast. And I'm sorry, Spencer. I'll be right with you. That gun drawn and they broke down the doors. Why would they come in there if the house was empty? Oh, wow. Alexi says they were removing my children when they grabbed me. I tried to go into my house. They threatened to, okay, what you should have done, if you're outside, you tell them, hey, look, I need a timeout. I need to talk to my attorney. Your constitutional rights is that you're allowed an attorney at all times of when they're trying to arrest you and stuff. So you could have asked for a timeout. You're going to go see an attorney, get their badge number, and get back to them. And Sean Parsons in Wood County, Francis Fancy Frankly. I don't know who these names are. We're not supposed to use names of judges or children. So I don't know who these people are, Shannon. And I don't know where Wood County is. I don't know what state that's in. So you can tell me that one. Okay, I got some more here. And this is Nicole Hornbeck, the parent partner. And welcome, Nicole. As for the original H, they don't know how until it's too late. Oh boy, I don't know what H stands for. And Alexei says, I did. Okay, it is that bad. Yeah, I believe it's bad. There are people dealing with CPS. I know that, and it's really, really, really hard. Spencer, we have a live caller.
Yes,
We have Spencer from Nevada County in Northern California. Go ahead with more about your case. What are your other questions?
yeah, so tomorrow or on Friday, I'm contesting they have a petition to detain. They've detained the children. I have twice a week visitations. They're trying to get me and my wife to separate on our lease agreement. I have texts from the social worker that say I need to go quickly to the leasing office and remove myself so my wife can stay there. So what I did is I used that as an opportunity to build some evidence against her through text. So I started to question her and ask for clarification. And I said, are you saying that if I don't remove myself from the lease, she won't be able to live there? And I just said I needed clarification because what I'm going to submit in court, and I'm going to cross-examine her on this, is I'm going to submit to the judge that she was trying to coerce me to separate on a lease. She was threatening me, saying that if I didn't separate on a lease with her, that she wasn't going to be able to stay there. And I code pleaded what stay means, and it means to remain. And if you look up the antithesis of stay, it means to go or to move out. So she threatened me and I said, "Oh, will Jasmine be asked to move out? Did you intentionally try to separate us on a lease by saying so she can stay there?" I said, "Do you think if I would have followed your instructions to go quickly, we'd be separated on a lease right now?" And I said, "Do you know what quickly means respectively?" And the legal word for quickly means timely, other related terms immediately, at once, or in contract with court orders as soon as can be done without excuse. So once I built that on her a little bit, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna tell the judge on Friday, I'm gonna cross-examine her, and I'm gonna prove that she coerced me to try to separate on a lease, and she's violating Section 401 of the Adoption and Safe Families Act that was enacted by Congress on November 19th of 1997. And I encourage people to research this, because the Adoption and Safe Families Act, just as Bob has said, is an act to promote the adoption for children in foster care. And there is no law that permits taking children through parenting agreements. So the only way they can do this is through coercing you through maladministrative agreements and through tacit agreements to get you to sign away your rights. What are your rights? You have a reservation of rights. You have a reservation of rights under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. These are rights that are under all state constitutions as well as the federal Constitution. These are your liberty interests as a citizen of the United States, and you are entitled to natural liberties, religious liberties, personal liberties, rights to privacy, various inherent rights that prevent government interference to in intimate personal relationships and activities. So if you can prove that CPS is trying to tell you how to parent, if you can prove that, because they're allowed to tell you how to parent unless you tell them that they're not allowed to. They operate on what's called a non-positive law. It's an editorial of Title 42. And that is what they build all of these court proceedings on. It is not a real law. And they will use it unless you tell them that it's not a real law. And you have to show them the real law. And the real law is Section 401 as the Title 4 miscellaneous section of 42 U.S. 671 note in the Adoption and Safe Families Act under Section 401 and the preservation of reasonable parenting. There's nothing in this act that's intended to disrupt the family unnecessarily or and to intrude inappropriately into family life, to prohibit the use of reasonable methods of parental discipline, or to prescribe a particular method of parenting. That you tell them, you say, hey, you guys aren't following the law. This is the law. You guys have been entering into my space. You guys have been violating my rights to privacy. You guys have been interfering in intimate personal relationships and activities, and I'm entitled to these rights under the Supremacy Clause, under the ratification of the state and federal constitutions, and I demand that you dismiss this case based on the underlying statute. Because
I'm going to have to curtail this podcast because I got another podcast starting shortly. This is I want to thank you, Spencer from Northern California, for your call in. Please call in tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. or tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Thank you, Steven. You came in after the town there. You have to call in tomorrow because I have to end the show. Thank you, Sean and Parson, Alexi Harvey, and who else we have here? God is Kratos, and then we have Nicole and Sean and Parson, and then we have Alexi Harvey, and then we have Christina Reynoso, and I think it's the most people I've had in one night. Heather Chernard, and then we've had, let me see here, Tori Johnson. So we've had a full house. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. It's very important. I'm on at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That's 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm on at 7 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour. And then I'm on again at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So keep fighting for your kids. God bless you. Bob Pace signing off.